The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, welcome everybody. We're happy to have you here today for our webinar on responsive web design. And we're very happy to have Tracy Pogue doing the presentation today. Tracy is the senior manager with R2I. She is responsible for overseeing the company's largest enterprise level website builds. And she has an expertise in a number of verticals and industries and multiple content management systems. Some of her clients in the past have included Aramark, Boston College, the University of Michigan, and Capital Bank. She normally oversees projects with budgets upwards of $300,000 and utilizing content management systems with Adobe, Ektron, DNN, and Drupal. Before we hand it over to Tracy, we want to take a quick poll to try and just understand the experience level of the audience for responsive design, and Tracy will tailor the presentation a little bit based on that. So I just opened up the poll, and go ahead and click on which level you feel you're at. And we'll give it about 5 more seconds. Okay, thank you. So Tracy, 25% are beginner, 50% are intermediate, and 25% are expert. So I'd say you've got a pretty middle of the road crowd here.
Okay.
So Tracy, I'm going to make you the presenter now.
Great. Can you see my title slide okay?
Yep, it's perfect.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining this afternoon. Just as an aside, I do have a colleague here with me, John. He's the senior front-end developer here at R2I. I asked him just to sit in case any questions come in that are more technical in nature, and he's going to help me field those. But other than that, I'll get started. I've broken up today's presentation into sort of the 5 W's and the how, so kind of the journalism, who, what, why, where, when, and the how. I won't be going in that specific order, but I thought this would be a really good way to break down responsive design. So the first section I'm going to go through is the what. So what is responsive design? Put simply, it allows your website to be viewed and optimized across all devices. So from desktop to tablet down to mobile, and that includes shifting your tablet or your mobile device into portrait or landscape mode. So this means that your website or your microsite or your landing page is literally a one-to-one across all devices. And technically put, the way this is done is through CSS. Pixel widths are converted based on percentages. And with those in place, we can detect a user's screen size and serve up the appropriate size for them. So a lot of you may be familiar with mobile optimized sites and understanding the difference between mobile optimized versus responsive, because they are not the same thing. So I think this is pretty important. So generally, mobile optimized sites are your top 5 to 7 pages of your website. This is like the critical information you want to serve up to your mobile users versus responsive, which is going to be all of your site's pages. Design-wise, a mobile optimized site is going to look different. It's going to have a different user experience. You generally are going to hit it and see your navigation versus responsive, which you're going to get that scrolling because the content kind of shifts down and folds under one another. The biggest difference, too, is with analytics. So with a mobile optimized site, it is recommended you create a separate view in analytics so that you are getting straight up metrics just on your mobile optimized site, whereas responsive sites, you can use the same view and just use standard filtering in, say, Google Analytics to say, okay, how many people coming to my site are on a mobile device? Now, some of you may think, well, why can't I just do that filtering to understand who's viewing my mobile optimized site? And you can, but with most mobile optimized sites, there is a link at the bottom that says View Full Site. So if people are viewing your full site on a mobile device, you're going to lose those metrics. You're not going to get a clear understanding of who's just visiting your mobile optimized site. The second thing, maintenance-wise, it's different. You are going to have to maintain your mobile optimized site separately versus responsive. Edits are made in one place and they just trickle down. So it's a lot easier to maintain a responsive site. And then SEO-wise, Google does prefer responsive sites and has put out there that errors in your site's performance on mobile platforms negatively affect your rankings. And then lastly, I would say the one thing with responsive that isn't a benefit on this slide is that it does take more time and effort to build a responsive site versus a mobile optimized site. And the only exception are e-commerce platforms. E-commerce mobile optimized sites they do take longer to build, and I will show you that in some upcoming examples that I have. So what I want to show you to further elaborate on the what portion of this is a responsive website that we just launched recently for Boston College. This is the Lynch School of Education's website for their graduate admissions. And you'll see that the content is exactly the same. The images scale well. You have that hamburger, what we call the hamburger menu in the top right on the mobile screen. And this is actually an interesting example because you'll see on the desktop site as well, we use the hamburger. So both the desktop and the mobile have that. Most sites do not. Most sites you're only going to see that hamburger icon appear on mobile. But for this site, we went with it for both. Now here's an example of a mobile optimized site. Again, this is an R2I client, Rose Associates, based out of New York City. This you'll be able to see clearly that the mobile version serves you straight up your navigation, so you're not seeing a one-to-one based on the desktop site, and that is your biggest indicator that you are now in a mobile optimized site. I want to touch on what responsive design is not. It isn't a 100% replica of a desktop site in the sense that certain elements can be hidden based on breakpoints. So one of the most popular things that we see lost on a mobile version of a responsive site is imagery. If imagery is used in your website for visual appeal, but it doesn't have much functional purpose, generally we hide that on the mobile version and we get sort of straight to the point. And there's a few different things that you can purposely make the call to hide on the mobile version or tablet if you wanted to, based on what you think is necessary. What responsive design is not, it's not a friend to outdated browsers, particularly IE7 and IE8. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have IE8 on my phone, so why is this an issue? The problem is that a responsive website is coded using the same styles across the board. It's screen sizes and pixel widths we take into account. We don't take into account browsers. So furthermore, IE8 and IE7 do not support what are called media queries, and those are used heavily in responsive design to force images, video, etc., to reduce in size. So those are not supported in IE7 and IE8, so you're not going to get a responsive experience in those browsers. And then lastly, I think sometimes we see things in the digital space that are more trends. I think one of them in particular was parallax scrolling. I, without a doubt, do not feel that responsive design is a trend. I think it's vital to have responsive design. So next I'm going to get into the why you should go responsive. A 2013 report from eMarketer called Redefining Mobile-Only Users, Millions Selectively Avoid the Desktop, cites that mobile users are rising and they're already surpassing desktop users. So we're seeing that mobile users are averaging about 2 hours and 21 minutes a day on a mobile device versus desktop users who are down just about 2 minutes there, but I think this is probably already outdated and continuing to grow. And then I'd like you to think about people who don't sit at a desk every day. In particular, is one close to me. My husband is a police officer, and he doesn't have a computer. He doesn't have a desktop computer. So everything he does is on his phone. And I think, the same could be said for teachers, healthcare professionals, young adults, airline industry professionals. There are so many people out there who are not like most of us on this call today that don't sit at a desktop computer every day. And then I also want to point out, if you think about everybody who's on the go, I don't think I talked to one person, friend, colleague who doesn't feel like their life is, always on the go. So everybody is always on the go, and they're using their phones and their tablets more so than ever. Just to throw some stats at you, 85% of adults think that a company's mobile website should be as good or better than their desktop site. So this is what we're working with in today's landscape. So I have a few examples I'm going to show you to further illustrate why and kind of illustrate why it would be a frustrating experience not to get an optimized experience. So what I have up for you is Cork Wine Bar in DC, which is near Logan Circle, versus Old Ebbitt Grill, which is right next to the White House. You'll see that Old Ebbitt Grill has a responsive website, Cork Wine Bar does not. If I'm walking around DC for the day and I want to determine, okay, I want to pick a great restaurant, let me go to their website and look through the menu, make sure I like everything, and then make a game day decision, if you will. Old Ebbitt's making this experience really easy for me. Their navigation is extremely accessible. You have that hamburger icon. They have click-to-call enabled, meaning I can touch the telephone number on the screen and it automatically is ready to dial that for me on my phone. They have an events calendar further in that I don't have a screenshot of that's well scaled, that's easy to digest. And lastly, the menus are really easy to read. Now you look at Cork Wine Bar, you can already tell that's their home page. When I hit it on mobile, I'm going to have to pinch and pull the screen just to get any information. If I'm on the street walking around, forget it. I'm not even going to deal with this. My next example for you is higher education. So I have Moravian College versus University of South Carolina. Just some background, Moravian College is a D3 school based out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And that is where my brother went, and I like to be competitive with him, so I chose them as my poor example for today. So Moravian College, you can see right away that it is their full homepage, but it's certainly not responsive. I'm having to pinch and pull. Extremely challenging on this site to even touch the main navigation or any tertiary navigation there. I'm going to have to really, pull through and make sure like my finger is touching the exact area. Otherwise, I could go to an area I don't intend to. Text is super small. The images don't scale. On the other half, you have the University of South Carolina responsive site. The search is very accessible. It's right there. I can touch it, execute a search, no issue. Hamburger icon allows me to navigate through all sections of the site. The use of the images, they're scaled well to a mobile device, so they really have that strong impact. All the phone numbers are click to call, and they have a nice map feature integrated with Google Maps, again, very well optimized. So if I want to, if I'm driving around, it's like, oh, I need to get directions, how do I get there? Very easy to do on their mobile experience. And then lastly, I have Ashley Furniture versus Raymore and Flanagan. So again, another example, if I'm feeling lazy, which I often am on the weekends, I don't feel like pulling out my laptop, firing it up. I know I want to go furniture shopping later in the day. Let me first see online what these companies are offering so I know I'm not going to waste my time if they don't have anything I don't like. Well, Ashley Furniture is making that really hard for me because, again, I'm having to pinch and pull. The images are horrific. I can't even view the inventory easily. I'm abandoning this site. I'm going on to the next one. Raymore and Flanagan, again, easy to read content, well scaled. Their product detail pages are excellent. The imagery scales super well. I can, view the inventory. I can search easily. The filtering is really easy, so I can narrow down my options based on, living room, dining room, etc. And then I just put a stat in there for you. And again, this is a mobile screen, but responsive touches all devices, including tablet. 69% of tablet users have shopped via their device in the last 30 days. So again, maybe a little bit outdated in terms of timing-wise, so we can assume this has probably grown since that time. So here's a recap of why you want to go responsive. Put simply, you're going to move the needle. You're going to increase visitor time on site because your site is scaled for all devices. It's just inherent that people are going to spend more time on it. You're going to convert more leads because, hey, I was able to read Old Ebbitt Grill's website easily. I love their menu. I'm going in. You're going to increase your sales. I was able to look at the inventory on Raymore and Flanagan's website really easily. I loved what they had. Let me go in the store. You're going to make search engines happy. You're going to meet your customer expectations. Again, going back to that demand and the expectation of what your mobile or tablet site should offer users. And you're going to gain repeat visitors. And lastly, sharing your site is effortless. So if I send a friend a link through email, they're on their phone, they pull up that link, they're going to easily navigate through the site if they're, on the go, versus if I sent them a link, they're on their phone, and it's not a responsive site, it's that pinching, pulling thing that just gets frustrating. So who? I'm going to get into who should go responsive. Responsive design is really industry agnostic. All industries can benefit from having a responsive website. Healthcare, pharma, education, professional services, the list goes on, sports and entertainment, food services. I think everybody could benefit from having a responsive website. I have a few examples for you today of companies who I feel are missing the mark. I think it's unacceptable that these websites are not responsive or at minimum mobile optimized. They include United Healthcare, TCF Bank, Bristol Myers Squibb, a huge pharma company, and USA Jobs. I mean, you try searching for a job on USA Jobs just to see what's out there on your phone, forget it. You're going to get frustrated and you're going to go elsewhere. United Healthcare, if I want to look up any of my plan information, look up doctors, anything like that, it's just so difficult to do that on a non-responsive site. Now, earlier I touched on e-commerce sites. E-commerce sites generally are better off being mobile optimized versus responsive. They have a lot of content that needs to be served up, the shopping, the products available, the inventory, and generally responsive design doesn't work well for an e-commerce site because you get, this scrolling that's induced with responsive versus mobile optimized. It is perfect for that mobile device. It allows you to filter the options that you're searching on, or shopping on, I should say. And for today, I pulled up a few examples of major retailers who have separate mobile optimized sites: Macy's, Lowe's, DSW, Nordstrom's, etc. I mean, it was hard to find one that wasn't mobile optimized. I think a lot of these retailers have caught on and have mobile optimized sites. I will say, if you're garnering less than 5% of mobile traffic to your website, it's probably not worth it right now to go responsive. If you have a lot of marketing decisions to make and your budget is tight, I would say now is not the time to go responsive. But if you're getting 5% or more, I think it's worth it because the number's only going to go higher, and you really want to meet your customer expectations. So where should you go responsive? So what I have up for you is an example, another R2I client here, Hershey's Chocolate World. So we have made all of their digital assets responsive. They have a responsive website, they put out responsive emails, we've done responsive landing pages for them. Any digital asset is responsive for Hershey's Chocolate World, and it makes for a great user experience across all of their touch points with their clients. So this one, the when section, I only have one slide, and I think you'll see my point right here shortly. The time was yesterday to go responsive. The time is now. It's really important to get this going. Again, if you're getting 5% or more, if you're thinking about your budget for next year, I think this needs to be your top priority. So the last section I have for today is how. How can you go about making sure you're putting a responsive website out there? The first I want to touch on is IT departments. So I came from a corporate background. I've not always been in the agency landscape. And for the corporations I worked with, IT was your traditional IT department. It was comprised of networking and telecommunications team members. They were the people we called when we needed to make sure, the newest employee had a laptop, or to make sure my phone was working correctly. They were the people we called to maybe make a few website updates, but not really do anything crazy on the website. I think if this is what you experience at your company, I'm not sure that your IT department is the way to go. And it might not just be because they don't have the experience to do this. It might be because that's not their main job. So you might be waiting a long time to put out, a responsive solution. I think digital agencies are a strong way to go if you have the budget and you're thinking about going responsive. They're staffed with team members who have specialties in all of the areas a responsive design would touch. So user experience designers, information architects, most importantly, front-end developers with the HTML and CSS that's needed to pull off a responsive site, SEO people, QA engineers. You have everybody ready to pull off a responsive site. Another great benefit of agencies is they stay abreast of trends, so they need to stay on top of the latest and greatest in the digital landscape. And then most, I would say, R2I included, we just gain efficiencies in responsive design over time. So if you're familiar with building a website, part of that is doing wireframes. R2I, we only need to do a mobile homepage wireframe anymore. We do not wireframe every single mobile layout of your website. Our front-end team is well-versed in scaling the Photoshop files and working with one set to pull off a responsive build. Cost-wise, it's hard for me today to say your responsive site is going to cost X amount of money. What I can give you is a ballpark. So if your website budget includes a full redesign, I'm talking IA, user experience, so that your wireframes, your blueprints, your design, and then your front and back end development, I would add about roughly 30 to 40% of that budget on top, and that would give you a good ballpark to work with for your responsive budget. And then another thing I wanted to point out cost-wise is that it is cheaper to go responsive altogether versus launching your site and then maybe down the road, a few months, a year later, converting it to a responsive site. It is going to be cheaper if you get it all done in one time. Time-wise, it is going to add an additional level of effort and time because you are cutting up more page templates and those breakpoints to work across all those devices. So a good ballpark ballpark to work with is just take your development timeline. Don't take your overall, strategy, UX, design. Just work with your front and back end timeline, if you will, for development, and add about 15 to 20% more time to do a responsive site. And that is all I have today. I don't know if we have any questions from the group.
Yeah, hi Tracy, thanks very much. Fantastic presentation.
Sure.
We have a good bit of time, and we can take questions via voice. I can unmute you if you have a question. Just hit the hand to raise your hand, or you can text me a question, and I'll read it out to Tracy. Tracy, we have gotten some interest about getting copies of the slides,
Yep.
and I've relayed that on the survey, exit survey, there's an option to check off to receive a copy of the slides, and we'll also be posting this webinar online later on. I got another question coming in. Will. So, Will, I just unmuted you. Did you have a question for Tracy? Will Spivey, are you? Did you have a question for Tracy? Okay, maybe not. Well, we'll give it one more minute if anybody has a question about responsive design. Tracy, I've got one question. Any before and after responsive mobile design images on hand?
Was that a question for me? Sorry.
Yeah, Tracy, one person's interested if you have a before and after image of responsive mobile design.
In terms of the site before it went responsive and then after, like a redesign effort?
Right, right.
I could certainly send one out to you, and then if you want to distribute, that would be no problem.
Okay. Any other questions before? Okay, well, Tracy, thank you very much for the presentation today.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for attending. There's a very short exit survey, if you wouldn't mind filling out before you, as you exit the webinar, be helpful for us. And we will